Make Europe great again. Globalist elites have led Europe into a dead-end street. Violent crime has surged because of mass immigration. The Green Deal has put the future of the European economy at risk. Fake NGOs and the massive bureaucracy in Brussels are interfering in our democracies. Patriots must take action. We bring analysis. We organize debates. We build the network of patriots to challenge the woke narrative head-on. Patriots for Europe Foundation.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Maha Unchained. Please welcome physician Dr. Robert Malone and Epoch Times senior editor Jekielek.
Wow, Dr. Robert Malone, you know, one of the most... Yeah, everybody, bring it up for Dr. Robert Malone. Probably one of the best-known contrarian voices during the COVID pandemic, arguing for rational policy during the pandemic. But I know him best as a rancher of horses and emus.
And welcome my friend Jekielek. You may remember that I spoke about Jan's leadership and the Epoch Times at CPAC 3 years ago. And I think without CPAC, without Epoch Times, we might not be where we are right now. It's been my pleasure to build a friendship with Jan and to participate in his fantastic series, American Thought Leaders, and our little fun series of clips that we called Fallout.
That's right.
So I'm wearing a bow tie today, not my usual attire, in honor of Dr. Peter Hotez. You'll recall that Peter Hotez last December darkly muttered about the fact that as soon as President Trump was in office, there was going to be a series of virus outbreaks, of threatening viral events that were going to cause him a lot of grief and to focus on responding to those. But instead what we have is two amazing things that happened on the same day.
Well, so who here noticed that the new HHS secretary is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? Two things happened that day. First, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was sworn in, and second, there was an executive order signed by President Trump that established a commission to look at child chronic disease. A one-two punch that, in our view, is kind of revolutionizing the future of health. Robert.
I agree. So what is this thing, MAHA? Make America Healthy Again. What does that really mean? Those of us that have kind of been in the sausage-making process have a pretty good sense, but let's go to what President Trump has defined as MAHA in this amazing executive order. And what he's laid out, the mission he's laid out for my friend, your friend too, Bobby Kennedy, this amazing new Secretary of HHS that, I mean, can you believe this? He's both a bodybuilder and a biohacker. That's what we have as our secretary. And so what is MAHA? A key factor in this is a refocusing of the entire government health enterprise from a focus on disease treatment to a focus on health promotion. And I really recommend that all of you take a moment to read President Trump's executive order creating the MAHA Commission, which is across government. It even includes Treasury. It's an amazing document in which he talks about the crisis of health in America, the crisis of chronic disease in America, but in particular, it zeroes in on Bobby Kennedy's sweet spot, protecting the health of children in America. It talks about child's health. It talks about the epidemic we have now of all kinds of chronic diseases, including autism in our children, and it talks about the over-medication with Ritalin and all these other drugs. We're basically drugging our children into obedience and oblivion using these agents, getting them to be complacent in the schools so they don't cause trouble, making it easier to control them. That has got to stop. And that is the mission of the Make America Healthy Again movement, is to, within 12 to 18 months, this is the president's mandate, within 12 to 18 months, Bobby Kennedy has got to show measurable improvements in public health for American citizens. Now that is a tall order. And to do that, he's got to let loose, frankly, he's got to let loose the dogs of war. He's got to let loose the whole federal bureaucracy, transform it, and take this new leadership team that he's created under Donald Trump's direction and completely radically transform CDC, FDA, NIH, work with his partners at USDA to enable the health of Americans, and particularly the health of Americans' children.
So, but Bobby Kennedy, okay, Bobby Kennedy did not work alone. Okay, and MAHA was actually something that existed in America already, a kind of subculture, one that I didn't even know very much about, that I discovered on American Thought Leaders, you know, throughout COVID. All these people that had been, you know, hit by reality in some way. Maybe they had a child that had been vaccine injured. Maybe they were poisoned by something. And millions of Americans basically were not, many of us were just simply not aware that there was this growing movement of people that were looking at root causes of health. And Bobby was kind of a central figure in this. So him coming in as the HHS secretary, I mean, this is in terms of budget, the largest of the departments.
Yes,
right?
Well, except for defense. But China went through a MAHA movement itself at one point in time. Isn't that right? And what happened?
100%. And so this is what dawned on us as we were preparing for this session. You know, back in the 90s in China, there was the health system had actually collapsed, a little bit like what's been happening here. Okay, and these traditional methods of called Qigong, or kind of a Chinese yoga, became incredibly popular in China. The most popular was Falun Gong, and some of you will know that the founders of Epoch Times were Falun Gong practitioners. 70 to 100 million people were getting healthy. Okay, they were getting awards for getting healthy. And what did the regime do in 1999? They decided to crush this health and spiritual movement. So, I mean, this is something that totalitarians do. This is the other part that I realized. Totalitarians do not like healthy people, right? And it's a kind of a mindset. So here we are.
So China now is not only crushing its own health promotion movement, but they're promoting bad health in the United States. Talk to us about fentanyl.
Well, so, okay, how many of you noticed that we have a new FBI director? Kash Patel, of course. One of the things that Kash kept talking about as he was going through his nomination hearings, okay, he said 100,000 Americans a year are dying of CCP fentanyl, and that is going to be one of the priorities of the FBI, okay? So that is the Make America Unhealthy Again movement. But we also have to have our own kind of individual agency here. We can't let Kash have to deal with this entire problem, or our foreign policy establishment deal with the entirety of that.
So if we have enough time, we'll talk a little bit about things that can be done about fentanyl. I think it's one of the clear things that HHS can do together in partnership with the other agencies, and particularly the FBI and Kash, to help make America healthy again within measurable responses within 12 to 18 months. But let's talk for a moment about what is public health. We all hear about public health, okay? Today's public health is not about medicine. It's not about the physician-patient relationship. It's not about empowering patients to take control of their own health, which is what we need to do in the day of Maha. What we don't need is top-down management of what you are able to do, what your doctor tells you to do based on the government's mandates and your insurance company's profit. Okay, we have to get back to decentralized health under the control of you, the patient. But what do we have right now in public health? Public health is basically grounded in utilitarianism. It is functionally socialism. It is the logic of the greatest good for the greatest number. That is absolutely the centerpiece of modern public health, and it's based on big data. It's based on big data analysis of what on average is best for you, and then a top-down approach to cause you to comply with what the numbers say under close analysis is best for you. And as a consequence, public health has destroyed the practice of medicine. This is why your docs have no options. They have to treat you based on protocol because that's what public health is saying they have to do. Public health has taken over medicine. And as I say, it is focused on outcomes, optimizing outcomes, the best outcomes for all of us. What it needs to do is focus on opportunity. What we need to do is enable you to have the opportunity to choose whether or not to optimize your own health and have the information to do it. But what we don't need is public health telling us that we can't eat McDonald's hamburgers and drink Coca-Cola. What we need is the information so that you can make an informed decision about what you eat and what you do to manage your health, not to tell you and micromanage you about what your choices have to be.
And the bottom line of this, and think about this, okay? Inalienable individual rights. One of the core things America is based on, a core element of freedom. This approach, this CCP, Chinese Communist Party approach, what happened during COVID? They locked down. They used the totalitarian method. They used the collective rights method. What's apparently going to be better for the greater good. But what happens when you use that collective rights approach? Every time, to paraphrase Stalin here, okay, to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs. And it turns out to be a lot of eggs, unfortunately. So we got to get back to this approach of individual rights, individual agency, and the Hippocratic Oath on the medical side.
So there's an insidious thing that's happened. They've snuck some stuff in while Bobby was busy focused on confirmation. They've snuck in a UN Agenda 2030 item called One Health. Okay? The CDC surreptitiously agreed to the One Health policies of the World Economic Forum and the United Nations and the World Health Organization. What is One Health? Who's against One Health? Of course, we all think that animals should be healthy and the environment should be healthy, just like the Secretary was talking about with U.S. policy. But in One Health, your health is equivalent to the health of animals. Your health is equivalent to the health of a lab rat. And I had somebody post the other day, we put out an essay today about One Health and what it really means, and they said, hey, I'll be glad to sacrifice a lab rat if I can have a focus on my grandmother and improving her standard of living. In One Health, the health of animals and the health of the environment are considered equivalent to the health of humans, and this has now been slipped in this policy that's right up there with the Green New Deal while the new administration was distracted. Something that was in progress for 2-3 years under the Biden administration, they managed to sneak in. They managed to sneak in the new director of pandemic preparedness, a veterinarian who is the associate dean of One Health at Texas A&M, before Bobby even had a chance to sit in the chair. And this is what Bobby really needs your help with. This is what Maha needs your help with. is he is going to be up against an entrenched bureaucracy that is going to fight him tooth and nail every step of the way. And the only way that we're going to be able to get sustainable change is we have to have all of us, the citizens of the United States, saying, we support you, we support a focus on health in Americans, and we are not okay with this globalist agenda of One Health, and we are not okay with the bureaucracy sneaking stuff in behind his back. Now, we only have a little bit of time left, but let's talk a little bit about bird flu.
Well, so how many have noticed egg prices have gone through the roof? How many? Okay, front page of the Epoch Times, okay, the national edition, you should check it out. It's unbelievable, right? But what is the reason? You might think, looking at mainstream media headlines, that it's because bird flu has killed 55 million birds. No, people have killed 55 million birds in an attempt to stop the bird flu, but that's not necessarily the only way to do it.
So bird flu has been around for years. I think this is our 4th episode of fear, of promoted fear about bird flu. And it never materializes, it never transfers into humans so far. Let's hope that continues to be the case. But now, even according to the CDC, bird flu is not a major risk for humans. It doesn't transmit from human to human. It's not putting people in the hospital, and they're not dying at any kind of a rate. Bird flu needs to be controlled, but the policies of the USDA, which now have cost you $1.2 billion, and that's direct costs, for the USDA to compensate farmers that have had to kill their flocks, and it's not working. That is the old school way to control outbreaks. But bird flu is in all the birds. It's in migratory waterfowl. We cannot eradicate bird flu. So we got to think of something different instead of this, give a 3-year-old a hammer and everything becomes a nail. That is what USDA bureaucrats keep applying. I argue that instead of vaccinating chickens with a zoetis mismatched leaky bird flu vaccine, heard anything like that before? Say COVID, okay, which will drive the evolution of more vaccine-resistant bird flu strains. We need to rethink this whole strategy. And what I advocate, and I can tell you, I hear rumor that this is being actively considered in the administration right now, and we may hear some announcements about this, is there's going to be a rethinking of how we approach this. And personally, I like the idea that we let loose the chicken industry to breed flu-resistant chickens and turkeys and ducks, rather than trying to jab them all with crummy vaccines or kill them all because they get infected. That's just one example of what can happen if MAHA is unchained.
Well, and everyone, I think we've run out of time here. The bottom line is, let's focus on root causes of health. Keep that in your mind. This is what MAHA is all about, and let's make